Hi, this is Christina Bergling. I'm an author and a horror writer. After releasing my first audiobook, I decided I wanted to start making these YouTube reading videos. The only natural place to start is with How to Kill Yourself Slowly. I wrote this piece in college for a creative writing course, and I think it is where I found my voice and my core writing themes. Like my first book, Savages, this one felt like it wrote itself. I just had to struggle to get it all down as it poured out of my head. How to Kill Yourself Slowly is the peace of mind that has always gotten the most response. Some people get very upset or offended, so trigger warning: suicide, self-harm, abuse, assault, etc. And I do understand. It can read like an endorsement or instructions rather than the bitter sarcasm that I used to mock the depths of my own darkness and the fumbling and ridiculous ways I dealt with it. I've received hundreds of emails from people who have connected with it. If you are one of the people whom this piece speaks to, I'm sorry that you relate to all that pain, but I hope it gives you some comfort knowing you're not alone. Here is How to Kill Yourself Slowly. There are so many ways to kill yourself without taking a razor to your wrist or tightening the noose around your neck. The secret beauty lies in the indirect methods. You want to savor your pain, taste your own decay, and kill yourself slowly. The process should be started when you are young and weak, ignorant. A pre-existing mental disorder or trauma is helpful, but the twisting dance of both intertwining together is best. Maybe crazy is in your blood, passed down the line from a great-grandmother that spent her adult life tied down and shocked senseless in a mental hospital. The legacy of mental illness snakes silently through your genes, only visible in the awkward interactions at family get-togethers. Insanity is painted in the wrinkles of all their repressed faces. Never say crazy. You can never say the word crazy. Their swirling disease now pounds through your mind, taints your world. But you don't discover this sickness until your world has abruptly been ripped apart. Maybe your entire childhood was a jumble of shifting illusions teetering on a framework of lies that suddenly crashes down in one breath to expose an ugly reality. The life you thought you had vanishes. It did not exist. Your parents never loved each other. They thought kids would make it better. You were born to save a failing marriage. You find out from your mother's journal 2 weeks before she moves out. You can use your mother's nervous breakdowns as an example. Hear the slamming door and the stifled sobs from the other side. Watch her tiny body tremble, face turn deep red, small hands clench until the knuckles are a ghastly white. Listen to the tones of her incoherent babblings to herself, up and down, screeching, moaning. See her crumble on the stairs or the kitchen floor. In a frantic fit of tears, her body convulses. This is a good path to follow. An easy plummet to the bottom. A failed suicide attempt at the age of 12 with your mother and sister arguing in the other room will get you closer to death than you can imagine. You will need to nurture a blind hatred of your life and everything in it. Blot out the sun with the thick, warm pessimism that nothing will ever get better. Embrace your own darkness and depression. A morbid fascination is comforting. You want to turn yourself completely over to your disease. Trust the distorted and deformed thoughts that seize your mind. Yes, you are worthless. Yes, no one gives a shit about you. Yes, you want to die. Let the black emotions that taint your veins consume you. Curl up with hatred and sadness. Make sure any flicker of hope is snuffed out. Your mind is no longer your own. You look into the mirror and see a stranger behind the glass, laughing and tormenting you. Her voice lacerates your mind. You begin to hallucinate sober. See your own slashed arms held before your eyes. Watch the walls bleed. People can ruin this plan. Support from others can weaken your conviction. You cannot want to be helped or saved. Start by developing a horrible relationship with your father, who you loved so dearly in childhood. He is the man who coached your elementary school softball team, who watched your first horror movie with you, who even would play Barbies if no one was looking. But he will become unrecognizable to you, a stranger in the shell of your dad. Perhaps begin by fighting with him about moving his girlfriend in. He lied about her for months. She is the biggest ass you've ever seen. She tries to be your mother but is scared of you, as she should be. Scrape and claw for your lost father and a glimmer of the relationship you once had until he is telling you at least once a week how worthless you are and how you are fucking up his life. He watches stone-faced as you cry and again try to convince him to care about you. You pick at the gray comforter on your bed and beg him to please, just once, tell you that he loves you. He looks at you and walks out. No emotion. He must never show emotion, just like his father. Maybe also get disowned by his family, twice, for having a party at his house while he's out of town, and for being a horrible daughter in person to him, their golden boy. Make sure your family devalues and ignores you and your problems. You should also get close to friends who will abandon you. They will leave you for boyfriends, girlfriends, new people, anything to get away from you. They say that you are too fucked up and need to get over yourself. Become dependent on one person who will tell you that she can't deal with this when you finally ask for help. She cannot even say this to your face. She writes it down in her illegible handwriting during class. You can barely make out the words with the tears blinding you. You actually trusted her. You thought you could. She was the one person you had cried out to. You were fucking up her life too. Take this as proof that you should never ask for help. Instead, surround yourself with people who do not care about or notice you, except for a few shining individuals who will stop you from taking a swan dive into the asphalt, but will overlook a few destructive behaviors. Your disease goes unnoticed here. They joke about it with you. You are not too much for them to deal with. You are nothing to them. You need to have sex with assholes. This is vital. Lay down for the kind of man your father has become. They don't want you. They are drunk and your more attractive friends are already taken. High school dropouts with bullshit jobs who only drink constantly and peddle their drugs. Baggy clothes, disheveled hair beneath a hat, glazed over eyes, tattoos, calloused hands, the smell of hours of laying carpet or tossing beer cases. Taste the alcohol and cigarettes on their tongues and follow them into the room. You pretend to fall for their pathetic lines, a blur of syllables you only know to be false, but you are just using them too. Dragging you into the bathroom in the middle of a case of beer, phone calls at 2 a.m. telling you to come over when they are already trashed, a motel room you barely remember. Let them ignore you afterwards. Let them treat you like shit. Have sex that makes you hate yourself. You feel nothing anyway. Live in dangerous distractions. Find joy in destructive behaviors. Drinking will poison your liver and amplify your disease. Dark depression will become overwhelming as the balancing cycles of mania are repressed by the alcohol. Any rational thought is washed away and your control dissolves. You are perpetually lost and disoriented in a rotating world of the same faces and anonymous parties. There is no reality. You will also need a healthy addiction to smoking. About half a pack of menthol lights a day should blacken your lungs nicely and get the cancer going. You use smoking as a crutch. Angry? Smoke. Sad? Smoke. Bored? Smoke. Painkillers also nibble at your liver and bring a distortion to your mind. You convince multiple doctors to prescribe them to you until you are red flagged for Vicodin, or you get them from people at parties. It is a quiet addiction where having a curved spine and uneven legs are a perfect explanation. You must even eat fatty and salty food in excess and refuse exercise. 5 packets of salt on your fries. Tell people that you are trying to kill yourself slowly in as many ways as possible. Jokes dispel concern. But most importantly, you have to discover self-mutilation as a way to cope with the controlling, overpowering pain inside you. You feel the tingling below your flesh, are saturated by the screaming thoughts in your mind. Listen to your strange reflections' persuasive words. Do it. Just once. It will make it all go away. It will make you feel better. Burns at first because you are too terrified by what you are doing to yourself. A curling iron, a lighter, cigarettes, your trembling hand, and the bite of the heat and goosebumps racing over your skin. Then you embrace the behavior and move on to cutting. It is a beautiful transition, as if you have been a cutter all your life. Your hands quiver until you fall into that heavy trance. The world falls silent except for your thumping heart. The sharp knife twitches in your hand. An awkward, tentative cut, then another, deeper, deeper, always in a line. Your body disappears, you feel nothing but the slice and the thick tranquility to follow, letting the blood escape in front of the other in the mirror. She always smiles. You need to lie to disguise all of these distractions. Tell your parents you're working or staying at a friend's house when you're out drinking or having meaningless sex. The cigarettes and the smell are your friends, not yours. The burns are from the popcorn popper at work. You convince yourself that your lies are true in front of your parents. If they question you, you get so enraged that they simply believe you. You learn to lie fluently. It becomes easier than the truth. Cradle all of the consequences of your destructive behaviors close to you. You need to dwell on every one. Turn it on yourself. Blame yourself completely. Make decisions that you can torture yourself over for years. They are excuses to hate yourself, reasons to be fucked up. You go back to bed with the same men, or always the same type of men. They don't care about you, and you feel dead inside. It must be because you're worthless. It must be because you're not good enough for better. You miscarry a child before you know you're pregnant. You must have drank it to death. It must have rejected your body. You take the wrong drink from a guy and are too drunk to fight back when he pushes himself on you. You must have drank too much. You must have let him. It all has to be your fault. Perpetuate your self-loathing and dive deeper into your disease. Above all, you must resist help in any form. You need to distance the few who care about you. Shove them away. Isolate yourself and wrap yourself up in your pain. Refuse therapy of any kind, even when your mother forces you to go as a child and attempts to bribe you with $50 as an adolescent. Don't trust the friends who swear they won't leave, promise they aren't scared off by your insanity, and tell you that you really do matter. You must never talk or cry out, no matter how desperately the words of 1,000 expressions press on your teeth and try to escape off your tongue. Restrain your tongue, bar your mouth. Let it all fester and grow silently like a cancer inside you, killing you slowly. Thank you for listening. Whew. Somehow reading it aloud is way more intense than writing it or reading it to myself. Sometimes it's hard for me to revisit this piece. It calls up a dark time in my life, and it shows how distorted a lot of my perceptions were then. I see a lot of aspects of this snapshot of my life and myself differently from the other side of the darkness. This piece has been published for probably about 15 years, and it was written about things that happened more like 20 years ago. Now it's like hearing a stranger in my own words. I remember it all pretty vividly, but it looks and feels so different. Before I end this reading, the question I get most often in response to this piece is how? How do you get past it? How do you survive wanting or trying to kill yourself? I've actually written a part 2 to this piece to answer just that. And because I was constantly told this piece alone was too pessimistic and needed some hope on how to survive. But to be brief on a subject I could probably write a book on, for me, I realized that nothing in life is permanent. Good or bad, everything ends. So even though things might not get better, they will become different. The only way to find out what the next thing could be is to not be dead. I also realized that I might not have control over many circumstances, but I always have control over how I perceive and process them. Thank you again for listening to How to Kill Yourself Slowly. If you want to connect or find out more about me and my writing, you can find all you need and links on my website, ChristinaBergling.com.